In our family, there's no clear line between fishing, religion, and fly fishing. We lived at the junction of great trout rivers in western Montana, and our father was a Presbyterian minister, and a fly fisherman who tied his own flies and taught others. He told us about Christ's disciples being fishermen, where he left to assume, as my brother and I did, that all first-class fishermen on the Sea of Galilee were fly fishermen, and that John, the favorite, was a dry fly fisherman. It is true that one day a week was given over wholly to religion. On Sunday mornings, my brother, Paul, and I went to Sunday school, and then to morning services to hear our father preach. In the evenings, to Christian Endeavor, and afterwards to evening service to hear our father preach again. In between, on Sunday afternoons, we had to study the Westminster Shorter Catechism for an hour, and then recite it before we could walk the hills with him while I wound between services. We never asked us more than the first question in the catechism: what is the chief end of man? And we answered together, so one of us would carry on, the other forgot. Man's chief end is to glorify God, and to enjoy Him forever. This always seemed satisfying, as indeed such a beautiful answer should have. Besides, he is anxious to be on the hills, where he could restore his soul, be filled again to overflowing for the evening sermon. Once my father came back with another question. You think I could have helped him, he asked. Even if I might have thought longer, I would have made the same answer. You think I could have helped him, I answered. We stood waiting in deference to each other. How can a question be answered that asks a lifetime of questions? After a long time, he came up with something he must have wanted to ask for from the first. You think it was a stick-up and he foolishly tried to fight his way out? You know what I mean? That it wasn't connected with anything in his past? Please don't know, I said. My father looked at me for a long time. He just looked at me. This was the last he and I ever said to each other about Paul's death. Indirectly, though, he was present in many of our conversations. Once, for instance, my father asked me a series of questions that suddenly made me wonder whether I understood even my father, whom I felt closer to than any man I'd ever known. "You like to tell stories, don't you?" he asked, and I answered, "Yes, I like to tell stories that are true." Then he asked, "After you finish your true stories sometime, why don't you make up a story, and the people go with it? Only then will you understand what happened and why. It is those we live with and love and who should know who elude us. Now, nearly all those I love and did not understand when I was young are dead, but I still reach out to them. Of course, now I'm much too old to be a fisherman. And now, of course, I usually fish the big waters alone, although my friends think I shouldn't. Like many fly fishermen in western Montana, where the summer days are almost arctic in length, I often do not start fishing until the cool of the evening. Then, in the arctic half-light of the canyon, all existence fade into being with my soul, and the memories, and the sounds of the big backfoot river, and the four-count rhythm of hope that will rise. Eventually all things merge into one, and a river runs through it. The river is cut by the world's great flood, which runs over the rocks from the basement of time. On some of the rocks are timeless raindrops. Under the rocks are the words, and some of the words are theirs. I'm haunted by water.